Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Jabroni Drive. On this week's episode, The Rock returns, CM Punk, Roman Reigns, Jey Uso, Kevin Nash, Endeavor takes over LA Knight, John Cena, and Randy Orton. Timmy, you got anything to say to all the Schmidt-Lavelites out there?
I'll tell you what, that lineup that you just put together for this week's episode is just too sweet.
Woo! I love it. Welcome to another episode of Jabroni Drive. Oh my God. Timmy, how you doing, buddy? Welcome to another episode of Jabroni Drive, a special episode, Tim. We're recording, and if that's not, is that the sun?
It looks like it. I mean, you wouldn't be able to tell through my lens, but
yeah,
it's always dark and dungeony on this side.
Dare I say it's the Heart Dungeon down there,
is.
you know?
It is.
Coming live from the
boiler room
dungeon, the boiler room brawl. Tim, we got a lot to cover this week, an exciting week in professional wrestling, and a lot going on. First and foremost, Endeavor, they've taken over. We're 2 episodes through. They've gotten to do a SmackDown and now a Raw. Real quick, overall, what did you think of their first 2 episodes?
What did I think, or what did the entire world think?
Yeah.
It was incredible. I mean, they came out the gate like gangbusters. There was rumors leading up to SmackDown that there could be an appearance by one Pat McAfee and one, The Rock, Dwayne Johnson. And I mean, the stars aligned because Deion Sanders is getting all this love, and the Colorado Buffaloes have been put back on the map by Coach Prime, and The Rock was in town for the game, and just up the road, an hour up the road, SmackDown was going to be taking place on the same weekend. So, it looked like the stars aligned for that, and sure enough, Pat McAfee and The Rock show up on SmackDown. I know you don't want to get into that right away, but
no, I think that's a perfect segue, Tim. Let's get into The Rock. I mean, dude, the biggest moment of definitely the last week, and a huge moment ever when The Rock shows up to SmackDown. That's huge. They said 103 million views that brought in. When you saw The Rock coming, when the music hit, did we get a reaction out of old Timmy at home watching the game? I mean, I got up off my seat. I started pacing around a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, look, whenever you have a star like that, I mean, he's arguably the biggest star in Hollywood right now. But it kind of it's a callback to your childhood when you first started watching wrestling, and that's what it did for me. Anytime you hear that glass hit, or The Rock's music, or anything like that, even the Undertaker's music hit, it gets a reaction out of you, and that moment was enormous. It resonated with people that don't even watch wrestling. I was talking to people who were like, "Oh, did you see The Rock came back?" Like, it's people that aren't even invested in it are talking about it. And that's what a guy like that does for your promotion. He moves the needle, and he gets interest in anything he does. Now I'm tired of hearing about the $7 thing. Like, he brings that up every single time he does an interview about, I had $7 in my pocket. It's like, all right, we get it, dude. You named your production $7. We get it. You have a lot more than $7 now, but what it has done for the WWE is really put them on the forefront. I mean, they've already been on fire lately, and this just adds to what they've been able to accomplish, and it's a good step in the direction that Endeavor now has the promotion. And they come out the gates, like I said, firing, and they bring in the biggest star in the world, and put him on SmackDown, which is not where we thought we'd see him at. But hey, any appearance from The Rock is a good appearance.
Yeah. And like you said, moving the needle, 103 million views in that first couple days of that area of that video posting. Uh Chills, goosebumps, the crowd went crazy. I mean, to be out there, is there a bigger could there be a bigger high in life than walking out to a building erupting when your music hits and just like holding them in the palm of your hand, whatever you want. He had them chanting what he wanted. He was hitting them with all the catchphrases, and it was just an incredible moment. Now, to be in that moment for the first time, an Austin Theory who came out, and yeah, he's had some big moments, and obviously John Cena at WrestleMania, but not kind of like that where you're in a duel on the mic like that. You know what I mean? Like
Mm-hmm.
he did it for him and Cena cut the promo in Boston, which I'm sure was a huge pop, but that was next level. That can shake some people, and I thought he performed pretty well throughout that whole thing. And
Yeah.
Timmy, I think we were texting. I don't think it's a coincidence that Theory was the guy that was out there with him.
Now he's been kind of on the forefront in the last year since I've been watching, since I've come back. Obviously, he's been put in some bigger spots. But you're not just going to bring in The Rock, for anybody, right? You're not seeing him out there with you know, the Miz or any of these others. Like, I'm not saying the Miz isn't a good representation of WWE. He is, but I mean, Austin Theory is the young anointed superstar, if you will, and has been in the past from Vince, and he's had a little bit of a rough patch here, but I mean, he keeps finding himself in these spots with these big time wrestlers, in really huge moments. Even the McAfee match, what was it, last WrestleMania, right?
Right.
Like that. I mean, McAfee's arguably the biggest star, in terms of sports radio and stuff like that. He's a big in a big spot, and he put him over. Like it's time and time again. Austin Theory finds himself in these spots, and I think it's not for coincidence.
Yeah, it seems like they're strategically placing him, like you said, and I didn't even really think about McAfee as much. But yeah, he's now the big face on ESPN. He has a huge social media following, so you get people that, and I guess this is what really makes a star is when people notice him that aren't wrestling fans. You know what I mean? They'll know a Logan Paul, they'll know Pat McAfee, they'll know a John Cena, and they certainly know The Rock. And so now you've got Austin Theory, who's been with Pat McAfee, and his fans now see this guy, and maybe they don't pay attention to him, but then the casual fan or the non-fan sees, oh, he's this guy who's John Cena wrestling at WrestleMania. Oh, who's that? And then now they see him with The Rock, and it's just you're getting familiar with seeing him. Now that leads me to my next thing, and it just kind of popped in my head. Are we going to see Austin Theory versus Logan Paul? Could that be the next move? You get to see him now with a guy that has similar social media presence to that of McAfee, Cena, and The Rock. Is that the next move with Theory? I know we've been talking about what he should do.
No, I do like what they've been doing with Theory, and it's not really. I mean, it's spotty here and there, but I mean, he's been coming out with Grayson Waller. I think that kind of tandem has been pretty funny. It's been entertaining. I think you stick with that and see where that goes. But I mean, they're both very much heels at this point, and I don't know if it makes sense to run Logan Paul out there with Austin Theory as heels. I
Yeah.
just don't know if that dynamic works. At some point I could see them going in that direction because they're both young, stars that are going to be probably around for quite some time. But they're both very talented, and I think their skills would match up very well in a wrestling match.
Yeah. All right. So that was a great return. Timmy, where do you want this to go? Do you now see The Rock showing up more often? Is this the beginning of him coming back into the fold with WWE and quite possibly leading to a match, maybe WrestleMania.
Yeah. If you watched, so I dived into the whole Pat McAfee show. He spent about, I think about almost about an hour on the McAfee show, and he revealed a couple things. And one was that, yeah, that they were going to do the match between Roman Reigns and The Rock at SoFi Stadium at WrestleMania 39, which begs a lot of questions to be answered. So, yeah, what did that mean for Cody Rhodes? Was, what is the timing on that? Who decided, on that match? And if it was a go, why did it get canceled? Like all the stuff really kind of comes into play here as to, wow, that's a big nugget to drop. And we're a couple months away from WrestleMania season, but it does kind of give you an idea that The Rock was ready to return for a match. And he mentions that he would do a match if it's never been done before, right? That's what his thing was. Like, hey, I want to do something. I don't want to just come back and just do a normal match and it is what it is, right? I want to do something bigger, something better, something that's never done before to give the people something, that they've never tasted before. And I don't know what that means, and I don't know what that looks like, but if it is, I mean, he's only getting older and older, in WrestleMania 40s, this April in Philadelphia, and it would be interesting to see him come back. But it just kind of begs to understand what storyline would that be, and how do you kind of fit him in the promotion? And we could probably speculate on this
Hours.
for hours about
Yeah.
where he could go. I mean, I even came up with a storyline where it's, Cody Rhodes wins the belt, and he wrestles on his family's behalf, because Cody's entrance, he says there's more than one royal family in wrestling. I think it would be kind of cool to have The Rock represent his family and then Cody represent his family, and it's basically for namesake.
Yeah.
And you can sell that story because The Rock's not going to win a belt and go somewhere, right? He's not going to defend it. He's not going to be back in a promotion, but it would be cool walking away from WrestleMania in some fashion like that. But I don't know. We'll see. Again, it's all speculation, but I wouldn't be surprised to see The Rock wrestling in.
I mean, and some
Philadelphia.
people would suggest out there that when The Rock said that it was booked for WrestleMania 39, him versus Roman at SoFi Stadium, that was not fair to do to Cody. What do you think about that? I mean, that is kind of like this guy comes in and now you have the part-timer, but at the same time, it's The Rock. And we just saw the views that he just had from his appearance on SmackDown. And he is undeniable. If he wants to do something in your business, there's really no saying no, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it was Dave LaGreca on Busted Open. He went on a nice little rant talking about how, it's a slap in the face to the business because they've created such a great storyline, right, with Cody Rhodes, and finish the story and all that, and it kind of shits all over that because you don't have to. I think his point was like, why do you have to go and say that it was going to be booked, that like it was going to happen? Like you just could have kept that to yourself. Like
Right.
by him acknowledging it, it kind of shits all over the Cody Rhodes story, which has been a really good storyline. It's lost its way now though. Like it's like, where are we at with that? After the Brock Lesnar, infamous attack for no reason, it's like where are we at with that? And you hope that it had a little bit more momentum when we keep on getting little bits and pieces of it, but we haven't. I can see where he's coming from though, with him kind of overstepping and taking away from that storyline, because it was organic, it was natural, it felt real. And then The Rock comes in bigger than anything that is the WWE,
Yeah.
like a bull in a china shop, like a
Yeah. A Brahma
Brahma bull.
bull. Oh,
Come
wow.
on.
You know what, though? I feel like it could have worked, because Cody eventually ended up losing to Roman, and The Rock, if he would have returned, would have had that match and maybe cost Cody, because it's not like Cody finished his story. It wouldn't have been The Rock came in and helped and held him from finishing his story. You know what I mean? So they could have wrote it in, and that's just yet another obstacle for Cody to overcome. And maybe that's something we see, an obstacle that Cody has to overcome to get to Roman again. He has to beat The Rock at the Royal Rumble or something, and then The Rock will be the guest referee or some shit. Who knows?
But we kept on speculating in different spots with the bloodline, like where it would be a good fit for The Rock to come in and interfere or get involved in some way, shape, or form, right? And I think like some of those spots that we said, like, instead they went with like the Jimmy Uso line and broke out the bloodline, right?
Yeah.
It would have been different if like it was The Rock,
It was
someone
The
from the
Rock.
outside, and like you could have kept the bloodline intact, and you could have really fed that story a little bit more if that were the case, and kept the whole storyline with Cody Rhodes. But hey, they decided to do it this way. It's time and place, and yeah, that's how it worked out. So
Yeah. So we have
it
a
was
big comeback with The Rock. Oh, sorry. What's up?
no, it was just it was a like we're
Great
missing.
moment overall.
Yeah,
We're just
yeah,
speculating,
yeah,
like incredible. This is what being a wrestling fan's all about, is
yeah,
those moments.
yeah. And everyone's going to remember that moment. I mean, 103 million people viewed it on social media. So, I mean, it has its impact, right?
Yep.
And like people aren't even going to remember that SmackDown and what went down and who won what match, because the biggest moment, and that's what the WWE is all about, are moments. It was The Rock coming back, and yeah, that whole in-ring segment was just phenomenal.
Yep. And so they'll remember that, and maybe it'll go down as one of the all-time biggest pops. You know, they always like to rank the biggest pops, and so that is certainly can go jump right to the top of the list. The Rock made a big comeback, and that's going to lead me to our next topic, another possible comeback. Recently fired from AEW, Mr. CM Punk. There's been a lot of rumors, a lot of speculation. Will CM Punk come back to the WWE? Will they have him back in the WWE, and does it fit? Timmy, do you think he'll come back, and do you think it fits for the WWE?
I think the WWE will do whatever it can to continue to build the roster with talent. He is a major draw. I've said this before on the pod about bringing a guy like CM Punk in. He's a guy that's going to draw. He's going to bring fans in. He's going to put asses in the seat. I don't think that the WWE needs him at all. I think he needs them more than they need him, because they're selling out
Yep.
every venue that they have. It's not like they need a CM Punk, but it would be interesting to see how it all plays out if they did bring him back into the fold. But like from what we're hearing, he's a locker room cancer, et cetera. Like he didn't get along with a lot of people. He's very selfish in terms of the way he handles his business. I mean, I don't think you need something like that right now when you're operating on all cylinders. You're firing on every level right now, and bring somebody like that in could rub the locker room a different way. Not saying that they're not going to go out and do their job, but I mean, it's still an environment that needs to be conducive to everyone on the same rope, right?
Right. And CM Punk needs to come back and play the right way too. So he's worked with Endeavor and the UFC before, and had his stint in the Octagon. And obviously he had trouble in AEW. And I don't want to see him, but I do, I guess I should say. I know it'll be a magical moment. Obviously, Survivor Series in Chicago. If somehow CM Punk then comes out and interferes, I mean, talk about a big pop. I mean, you're going to get a huge reaction because, one, it's his hometown, Chicago. Two, just the surprise of it and the shock. It really is happening. My only hope is, and I've said this to you, is that if they bring him back, they squash him like the roach he is. Not a huge CM Punk fan. So hopefully I wouldn't mind him going against Cody Rhodes and having Cody Rhodes, beat him fairly quickly. Just build up to this match, build up to it, squash him, kick him out. See you later, dope.
Or
And then
have him lose to like Tozawa.
yeah, it's how, or even him versus Cena again. That's another match that could happen that I'd like, and they've had a storied history, so that would be a good ending to that storyline. it can go a bunch of different ways. You can put him with a bunch of different guys, but if he is coming in, he's coming in to put over the new talent, the young guys, and the people that WWE is trying to build up. So if that happens, it will be an exciting time. It certainly will sell more tickets and hopefully be good for the company. All right. So speaking of the company selling tickets, one of the biggest draws, you wouldn't know it because he hasn't been around for over a month, Mr. Roman Reigns. Timmy, where is he headed? You know, they've got this bloodline like sort of together, not together. Jimmy wants to get back in. It's very strange, and we haven't really seen any type of story where Roman would have a different opponent besides Jey in, I don't know, since Mania. I mean, he talked about Cody like right after, but then it's moved on since right after WrestleMania. Who should be Roman's next opponent, and where do you think that storyline is going?
Well, why don't we get your opinion first? Because I have no idea where they're going with this, and I'd like to hear your opinion because I honestly this storyline has turned into a mess.
So, who would we want to see go against Roman Reigns? There's It's tough because you feel like he can't lose until it's a big moment at WrestleMania. You know what I mean? If you're going to have him lose the belt, you don't want it to happen. It'd have to be at a major PLE. And I guess if The Rock is coming back, you'd rather him lose the belt so that those two are just going to fight each other, not knowing who's going to win then. If Roman has the belt and he's fighting The Rock, you know The Rock is losing. So the guys that I can think of right now, and this is kind of for SmackDown, LA Knight. I feel like you could put LA Knight against him, and you're now building him up. I feel like he falls short. Of course, he doesn't win the title against Roman, but you put him in that major storyline to where now LA is a top competitor, and you have some foul play yet again, and LA Knight loses. You could put Austin Theory against him, a young guy. But I'm gonna segue into our next topic, and I think maybe we'll see a return from Mr. Randy Orton. He was spotted down at the training facility in Florida this I think yesterday, and looks like the comeback should be hopefully coming soon. You know, if his injury and recovery is coming along and he's now getting back in shape. Randy Orton is a big name and someone that can sell tickets, and you throw him out there against a Roman Reigns. Obviously, two storied families in the WWE and a great history between those two. So my push right now would hopefully be for Randy Orton to come back, and you can have him face Roman Reigns. He's not going to take the titles off of him, and you go from there.
Yeah, that would be really cool to see Orton come back. Yeah, I always go through these videos and I get lost in a time warp when you start going through like YouTube and Reels and stuff like that. You see all these comebacks, right? Like 1999, like Stone Cold comeback from at Backlash or something like that. And it's certainly setting up for Orton to have one of those moments. And he's a big enough draw, main eventer to be put on the other side of Roman Reigns and have a nice little storyline with them two leading up to it. And yeah, then you can kind of tie in. Ultimately, I think it has to go back to Cody Rhodes, right? I think it all goes through Cody because like it needs to be, in my opinion. I think that's where it's headed. And if Roman Reigns is going to go off into the sunset and do something else with his life or with his career, and not because I mean he's certainly not wrestling a full-time schedule right now, and that's obvious. Maybe they're and I just don't understand like why you would let this guy walk or whatever his plans are. But you're gonna need somebody to carry that light, carry the title, and represent the WWE. And I think that Cody Rhodes is that guy for you. That should be in that limelight, if you will.
Yeah, I think Cody is the next guy in line. So maybe the only thing I can think of, and this is, and now I'm just throwing out ideas. So clearly there was some issues with the bloodline, and Solo and him and Roman have had their issues and kind of really haven't discussed that. You know, at SummerSlam, he picked up the lei, and they were both staring at it. Roman speared Solo. I think eventually that leads to a Solo match against Roman for the title. Maybe the end of the bloodline and him, saying I've beaten all the contenders to be the tribal chief, and maybe that's when the Rock's music hits and he comes out and says, "You haven't beaten me." But they'd have to do something where he says, "If I beat you, you drop the belt."
I just
Or
don't understand why. Like, you can't sell me on Solo.
I know,
Like, you
I
you
know.
can't.
Has he been the luckiest person of this whole thing to be put into these main events in this top level atmosphere and really not earning it at all?
No, he's almost like
Put some
in a
shoes on.
yeah. In a way, though, I think we talked about this before too, is he's very much like the Kevin Nash role. He's in the Kevin Nash role, and he's just benefiting from Roman Reigns, just like Kevin Nash benefited from Shawn Michaels. And I'm not saying he's on the level of the Kevin Nash, but it's infuriating to see like there's other talented dudes around them. I'm not saying Solo's not a talented person, but like Jey and Jimmy are just head and shoulders more talented right now than Solo is. And for him to be thrust into like a main event type match does not make any sense to me.
Yeah, and I don't think the fans really want to see that. I just think that's a way to buy time until the major PLE in Philadelphia WrestleMania.
This is how much of a mess the storyline
It
is,
is. You're
because we
right.
can't really figure out, and it's not our job to figure it out. And they do a good job of trying to keep it quiet, but it's just a mess right now. It
Yeah.
has no direction whatsoever.
And maybe part of that is, and maybe with the passing of Bray Wyatt, maybe he was supposed to be involved in all of this, and they got thrown a major, curveball with not having Bray around anymore in his passing. So I don't know. Hopefully they have something lined up. I think Triple H and Rob Fee know what they're doing. Obviously, the guys that are in head of WWE creative right now, and I just want them to see, like, put that opponent out there soon so we can start to see, okay, this is where they're headed. And I know there's probably a science behind that and building that to that it leads to this crescendo at WrestleMania. We'll have to see where it goes, but I'm getting a little impatient because Roman's not the only one that doesn't have a storyline going on. But so you mentioned I mentioned LA Knight as maybe being an opponent. You mentioned Solo kind of being in a similar role as to that of Diesel, aka Kevin Nash, back in the day with Shawn Michaels. And that's going to lead us to our next topic, Timmy. And that's Kevin Nash yet again. And I don't want to spend too much time on this, but the guy can't seem to stop talking about LA Knight. In his latest comments, he says, "I'm in the Hall of Fame twice, both times as Kevin Nash. He's LA Knight. What the fuck is an LA Knight? Is that Night Ranger's first vinyl? The name of it? It's like Oz. You're the evening? What is LA Knight? Anything he can steal, he's on it. Nothing original, certainly." Timmy, I'm going to say this about this story. I think Kevin Nash, he's a smart guy. I think he realized that his numbers spiked when he talked about LA Knight. People were viewing that comment. They were talking about him. He was trending on social media. And he says, well, hey, if it worked once, it'll work again. And he starts shitting on LA Knight again. Non original. I mean, this is sour grapes and seems to be maybe him firing back. LA Knight did a subtle dig at him too. I think you sent that to us in the group text, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. With the he did the promo and talked about
Proper grammar, maybe.
Proctor Grant. Yeah, yeah. It was a nice little shot at Kevin Nash for his promo when he first came into the WCW, and slipped up with his verbiage, if you will. I don't look, as much as I love the NWO and the Outsiders and all that stuff. Like in my opinion, I didn't think Kevin Nash was all that great. Like, he's a big guy. He did his little like, elbow in the corner. He did his knees in the corner.
When
You
you said
know,
that, that is the first move that popped in my head was that elbow in the corner where he, goes
yeah,
in like, yeah,
yeah,
that was, and the jackknife power bomb was pretty decent, but that's
yeah,
about it, right? A big boot.
yeah. Like I just, he was he was cool. He was a cool wrestler. He carried himself the right way. I think he got more over on his ability on the mic and his character than his actual wrestling. But look, he's well respected in the business. He went on to do some movies and shit like that and whatever. But uh, I mean, for him, a guy that's been in the business as long as he has and knows what it takes to get to the upper echelon of wrestling, for him to talk shit on some wrestler, that's trying his best, right? And granted, they all steal from each other. It's been documented time and time again. The wrestlers say it all the time. Like, you pull from some of the greatest that have done it, right? And you create your character based on what works. And for him to just take shots, continue to take shots at a wrestler that's trying to do it now, that's paid his dues, that's been doing it for over 20 years, is kind of sad. It's lame. It's like, dude, let the guy be, man. Like, you
Yeah.
should applaud a guy like this that's finally getting over after all these years. It's stuck with it and has been through different promotions and has been all over the world and has done the independent circuit, and it's just, is scratched and clawed to get where he's at now, and he's finally getting the limelight, and you're just shitting on him as a Hall of Famer. It's like, dude, you should be supporting a company that's recognized your greatness for all those years.
Yeah, right, exactly. And one final note is that he seems to like hate no matter what. The guy just seems like a hater. So he'll talk about some AEW talent and he'll say, yeah, yeah, yeah. And his big thing will say, well, how much merch did you sell? You know what I mean? Referring to the NWO and their t-shirt sales from back and how they're still big time sales today. Well, who's number 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 in merch right now? And that's Mr. LA Knight. So
Yeah.
you can't hate on him for everything there, big sexy. So you sound it's just sour grapes. Haterade. All right. So let's get into where this Jey Uso story is heading now. I want to move to that. Um, this past week on Raw, obviously they talked a lot about Jey Uso and where his allegiances may lie, the trouble that people have with him in the locker room. KO has a lot of trouble for him. The two guys that have been sticking up for him are Sami Zayn and Cody Rhodes. Drew McIntyre has a big problem with him as well. And so later that night, they put the main event together, Drew McIntyre versus Jey Uso. Timmy, what did you think of the match and how everything worked out with that?
I, yeah, it was a pretty decent match, I thought. Some solid back and forths. I don't know. It feels like we're on the verge of getting that Drew McIntyre turn, right, to him going heel. And you can see some of his mannerisms, the way he's carrying himself a little bit, and like towards the end of the match, after the match is over, the Judgment Day comes over, and like, they're still trying to recruit Jey Uso, and you get the super kicks to all the guys, showing that he's, obviously not turning heel, right?
Right.
And the dynamic is like starting to change, like in the middle of that match, which is interesting. And Drew McIntyre benefits from the interference of Judgment Day and hits the Claymore, gets the pin, with the help of Judgment Day, right? Who was there to
Right.
help out Jey Uso. So it kind of
Something I
backfires.
think to note, Timmy, with the help of Judgment Day.
Yeah.
Okay. I just think it may be nothing, but let's remember that seed, that
Yeah.
he won a match. And I think he noticed that he won because of that. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, no, I think this biggest spot um of that match is when Drew was walking to the back, and after he gets the dub and they start attacking Jey Uso, and he has the ability to come back, and he turns his back and
Yep.
continues to walk. up the ramp. So um, obviously no love lost there for him and the bloodline, but Cody Rhodes comes out for the save, and which I think is significant again, because yeah, as Drew's walking up the ramp, you see Cody running down. It's like, are these guys going to cross paths again? Like, where is this leading to? So, um, it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. But I really enjoyed that storyline.
Yeah, and I'm liking the arc of Drew McIntyre's as well. And I feel like that's the next move now, as you're kind of unfolding what happened and everything like that. It just, to me, it seems clear that the next move is Cody and Drew McIntyre, right? That just seems to be where this is all heading.
Yep.
And I think that match is gonna be a banger, dude. Like that, those matches with those two could be all time. You get a top level talent. We love Drew McIntyre, heel, face, whatever. The guy is as talented and has the look and can do everything as anyone in the WWE. Him versus Cody, and that gives Cody time to have this feud going probably into Royal Rumble. And you can take this to multiple major PLEs, and you can have them feuded out for several months, and that can hold him up until the road to WrestleMania and where he's going to be heading with that. And maybe this is where they're heading. Maybe it's going to be Cody versus Drew. We don't know, but I like those two teamed up together as far as being opponents. And this turn of Drew McIntyre, I feel like, is an interesting one, and I'm all for that. Any other comments on that there, Timmy?
All good, bud.
All right, so a lot covered in this past week, and a lot of exciting things moving forward. Who are we going to get coming back? How's it going to go? And what one other thing before we sign off here, Timmy? I'm very disappointed in the WWE and their creative and what they seem to have done this past week with one of our favorite wrestlers, Mr. Chad Gable. The guy has been over. He's been incredible in the ring. He just had, to me, a 5-star match with Gunther.
Huh.
And they come and put him out there with Bronson Reed and have him lose to Bronson Reed. And just, it seems like that's done. And they've moved on to Tommaso Ciampa with Gunther. And I know those guys have had some great matches in the past and this and that, but I think this is a mistake. I think Gable's the
Yeah.
guy and he needs his push.
Yeah, no, it's frustrating. Kind of puts a little water on my theory that Gable would win that Intercontinental Championship, but
I agreed
I
with you. I
I
thought
just
it was
don't
too.
I just don't get it. Like, we haven't seen big Bronson Reed in 2 months, and then he comes out and gets a clean win over Gable, who's just given Gunther some of the hardest fought matches that he's had in the last during his title run. And maybe it's just a quick one, right? Or I mean, we saw Finn Balor lose to LA Knight a couple weeks ago. I just don't know what that win does for Bronson Reed. Like, that doesn't make any sense. You know what I mean? Like, what does that do for his character? Is he getting some sort of push?
He'll be
Like, well,
traded to SmackDown and it'll be Roman Reigns' next opponent, Bronson
yeah,
Reed.
yeah, yeah. So that's about it. We'll see how it plays out, but I just didn't like it. I'm in the same boat as you, Tom.
Yeah. So let's hope they figure out this whole Chad Gable situation and where they're going with Gunther. I guess it's Tommaso Ciampa. I will be disappointed if it's Ciampa's the one that takes the belt off of Gunther. And that's, I mean, I'm not trying to knock Ciampa, but it's not for me.
He's got no momentum either. Like, I get he's had some good matches with Gunther and at a previous in the NXT Europe, but like, hey, we're in the big times now, boys. Let's
Yeah.
let's
It
let's
seems to
yeah
be no rhyme or reason to that matchup. They just like,
yeah
oh, we'll do this. It'll be great. They'll love it.
yeah.
There was no
So
build to it or anything like that. Maybe if you had Gable come out again and do it and had Ciampa interfere or something. I have no idea.
huh.
Timmy, this is going to bring us to the end of another amazing episode of Jabroni Drive. We appreciate everyone that's out there that's listening. If you're liking what we're doing, please give us a follow, a subscribe, a like, a share. Tell your friends, tell your family about Jabroni Drive, the greatest wrestling podcast you've listened to in the last half hour.
Easily.
Yeah. So we hope you like what we're doing. New episodes every week. A big weekend coming up with professional wrestling, and hopefully they're built to Fastlane, a lot of unanswered questions. Where are we going to be going? Main events, stuff like that. Timmy, anything you want to say to all the Schmidt and Lavellites out there before we sign off?
Appreciate you listening, and I look forward to seeing you all next week.
I agree with Timmy. God bless you. God bless Jabroni Drive. Have a great rest of your week. God bless America.